What's up everybody, Bandit and Chad here for another Taco Tuesday, and this Taco Tuesday actually marks the 104th Taco Tuesday. So if you're doing some math with me, I believe that marks 2 years that I've had my truck. My truck, keeping up with it, with the dealer and everything else 2 years ago, it was actually manufactured on March 15th, and then I got it roughly 2 weeks later. So I got it the last week of March, first week of April 2 years ago, and I actually just completed the 30,000 mile service on my truck last week. So I did take it into the Toyota dealer. They did the 30,000 mile service. I wanted to have them do it because the 30,000 mile one is the first service that is a little bit more in depth. It is more than just an oil change. They do check over all your fluids, and they're supposed to take a look at the transmission fluid level as well. So I didn't want to have any kind of question there about how it would go, and I did want it on their records. So that's why I did all of that. But overall, I've had the truck for 2 years, and everything's been going really great. I have just under 30,000 miles on my truck. Just got the second inspection on my truck, and like I said, everything's been going really well. Looking back on it, would I buy the exact same truck again? Absolutely. If you remember in Toyota's marketing campaigns when they were doing for the new third-gen Tacomas starting in 2016, every time they advertised the truck in the desert, they had this Access Cab TRD Off-Road and Quicksand, and it was always doing these kind of heroic things, you know, racing through the desert, climbing mountains, and everything else, and I really fell in love with that truck. Then when the time was right and I could sell my 2005 Tacoma and trade up for the new one, that was obviously the truck that I wanted, and I don't regret one bit of it. I've used the locker. I tested crawl control a little bit. I'm not a super big fan of that because sometimes you do need more momentum than crawl control allows, so I'm kind of still on the fence about that, but we'll talk about that more in another video. But overall, everything's going great. The truck is not entirely stock. You may remember that I did change out the grille. I put these seat covers on mine. Mine are actually the tan ones, but Chad went with the gravel color. But more or less, the truck is still stock, and everything's going really, really well. There's no major rattles in my truck. The fuel economy actually keeps improving as the break-in process goes longer and longer. I remember when I first got my truck, and I'm sure you can attest to this as well, the first 5,000 miles or so, I was not really all that impressed with my fuel mileage. Were you? Right, yeah. In the beginning, you don't really get the greatest fuel economy because your engine and every single part of your truck is still brand new. A lot of the parts haven't exactly warmed up, gotten to operating temperature, and broken in. Now, while there is no break-in period for our Tacomas, you're still going to have these parts that are, you know, getting seated properly, whether that be valve springs and just all sorts of parts that are internally in your truck. They just all need to get kind of worked in, and then eventually it will settle back in. And to note on that, your transmission does learn how you drive. So once it learns your driving patterns, everything gets a lot more smooth and will in turn result in a better driving and fuel economy experience. Right, and a lot of the parts just have to wear a little bit to get some of the friction off of those parts and everything else. Now obviously a good oil can prevent a lot of that as well, but you know, some of the stamping processes and everything else that comes with modern manufacturing, some of those corners do start to get rounded off and everything starts to run a little bit better. And actually, I can attest to that. My fuel economy has gotten roughly 2 to 3 miles to the gallon better. Actually, on this run back home that I had over the Easter weekend, we just dropped that TRD oiled air filter in my truck for the engine air filter instead of running the paper ones, and everything actually is running really, really great with that. I've gotten better fuel economy on this trip. I actually got 24.5 miles to the gallon going home over roughly 160, 170 miles, and 22.5 coming back. There is some elevation change there and everything else here in the mountains of Virginia. So that averages roughly 23.5 miles to the gallon. That's really, really great. I am still on Chad's stock TRD Sport tires on my TRD Off-Road. Check in some of our last videos if you're a little bit confused on that. But overall, everything continues to get better and better with the trucks as time goes on. There are still some things I want to change. I think maybe long term I do want to go for a little bit more of a lift. Definitely some more aggressive tires here coming very soon, and some rock sliders and some other more off-road capable appointments on my truck will be added before too long. But I wanted to give you all a good idea of what it was like to live with one of these trucks, mostly stock, for 2 years. And like I said, everything could not be better, and I don't regret a single thing about having my truck. Right. So, and kind of to bounce off of what you had just said,
through all the videos and everything that we've done over these 2 years, you know, when he started it and even when I joined up to help him out and kind of show a different perspective from a Tacoma owner, and one that's built very differently for a different purpose, and showing kind of the experiences that we have with each other, what they do, what a TRD Sport double cab long bed does off-road, whether it's meant to be there or not, who knows, that's your decision. But yeah, it's been a really good experience with the truck, and I haven't had my truck for quite 2 years. It's almost there, but I'm just going to give a little bit on that. So right now I'm sitting at 27,500 miles, and I have also had a very good experience with my truck. I've enjoyed the nearly 2 years that I've had with it. It hasn't, you know, let me down or anything like that. And similar to him, the fuel economy, like we kind of talked about, it only got better as time went over, and I too have the TRD air filter up front, which I have experienced a kind of similar experience with that. But if I were to go back and kind of like 2 years in the future now, being 2018, from the point that I bought my truck, I would get the same truck that I have today, but if I could get it with a manual. That's the only thing, and unfortunately Toyota does not offer the 6-speed manual transmission for the double cab long bed in any configuration.
Or in my configuration,
Right.
with the access cab and the off-road package. If you get an access cab in the sport package, you can have it, but again, I really did want that locker because I do take my truck off-road a fair amount. You know, whether it's behind camera or not on camera, just going to my hunting spots and everything else,
Right.
that is something I run into. So yeah, if Toyota would add the manual transmission, I'm super glad it's at least stuck around, at least with the double cabs.
Yeah, so I'm not complaining about that. I'm really glad that Toyota has kept up with that, because, you know, it's definitely an awesome option.
Right. But even to this day, I still get really excited about these trucks. Now, it's not just because I make these videos every week with Chad and, you know, we are just kind of truck nerds. I mean, that is kind of part of it.
Yeah.
But overall, I do really get excited. One of my friends that's in the off-road club with us just recently, in the past 2 or 3 days, purchased a new TRD off-road, a new 2018, and I'm just as excited about him getting that truck as I was when I got mine 2 years ago. You know, I just really love these trucks. I would tell you if I didn't. I've told you many things that I don't like about them along the way, and many of y'all have voiced your opinions about stuff you may or may not have liked along the way as well. But overall, I feel like for the money, this is an awesome truck. You know, out the door, I paid roughly $35,000 for my truck, and for a truck with 4-wheel drive, a locker, mine has heated seats, navigation, everything like that, I feel like that's a reasonable deal in today's market. You know, a lot of these trucks are getting very, very inflated with their prices, and a lot of trucks, especially with the half-ton market, you can pay up to $70,000 for a truck, and that's really wild. And I don't feel like those $70,000 trucks are twice as good as my Tacoma, you know, for half the price. So if you are considering buying one of these, I can definitely tell you, at least for the first 2 years of ownership, I've been very, very pleased with my truck, very happy with everything that's gone on. The service people at the Toyota dealership down here at Schiller Toyota have been great. They've answered all my questions, and I'm sure I bug them quite a bit with all the questions I have, but everything's been really great, and I would certainly recommend one of these trucks if you are interested. So where does all of this leave us with the channel? Well, we're not going to stop doing videos now. We've really been appreciate all of the growth that we've been seeing, and you all are to thank for that for sure. But we're definitely not done. We might not keep you weekly updated on the truck. We might have other things to talk about. You know, after 2 years, there's not a whole lot of breaking news that really happens with these trucks on a week-to-week basis, but we are going to continue to add to them, continue to modify them, and we do have a ton of modifications on the way. So be sure and subscribe, follow us on Instagram and everything else. We do have a ton of content coming your all's way, and again, we really do appreciate your support. Now, with more and more modifications coming, we will be sure to keep you updated with all of that process. Again, I did want to kind of keep my truck more or less stock for the first little while, so I can kind of attest to the reliability of how one of these things is stock, and you know, how it treats you in daily driving and everything like that. But now that more of the truck is getting paid off, and we are getting access to some more parts and everything like that, we're definitely going to take advantage of that and bring a lot more modifications to the truck here in the next coming couple months and coming couple years as well, and I'm really excited about that whole process as well. You know, over the past 2 years, there have been a couple shortcomings of the truck. Mainly the tires are a little bit small. You know, we could use some better skid plates and everything like that, and we've already touched on that a little bit. You know, Chad is running the RCI aluminum skid plate and the RCI aluminum bed rack there over my shoulder, and those little modifications are great, but we are going to continue to do more and more larger modifications as we go. So be sure and stay tuned for all of that. But that's basically where it leaves us. If you have any more ideas or things that you'd like to see with the trucks, be sure and leave all of those in the comment section. We do try to get back to you as quickly as we can with those, and respond by making videos. You know, that has really spurred a lot of growth with the channel, just replying to a lot of your all's questions, and we do really appreciate all of that. So thank you all very much for watching. Have a fantastic week, everybody. We'll catch you next time.
See you guys.